Throughout WWE history, great wrestlers have been crowned, some with more titles than others, and others with even more impressive moments and surprising stories. It turns out that many names have come through this company every year, however, only one has managed to position himself as the best of the year. And well, for now I'll quickly stop talking, and today I'll present to you the best wrestler of each year from 1963 to 2026. There's no doubt that from 1963 to 1970, Bruno Sammartino led what was then called the World Wrestling Federation. In 1963, Buddy Rogers would lose the title to Bruno Sammartino, who held onto it for 7 years and would become the top champion of the WWF. After 7 years with the title, Bruno Sammartino would lose it to Ivan Koloff, but Ivan Koloff would lose it a month later to Pedro Morales, who became the new babyface and face of the company for that entire year. Oh, and I'm not lying either when I say that also throughout 1972 and 1973, he became a true folk hero coming from Culebra, Puerto Rico. Pedro Morales managed to earn an important place in WWF, and he knew how to carry the company on his back, having incredible title defenses against Mr. Fuji and Larry Hennig. But in 1974, after taking a long vacation following his 7-year reign, Bruno Sammartino would return to lead the company, but this time he would come back seeking revenge. Everyone thought that in 1976 he had nothing left to offer. But he managed to have important matches and feuds that remained in the minds of thousands of fans, as well as in the mind of Vince McMahon Sr., who greatly admired Bruno's talent, which is why he trusted him so much. Superstar Billy Graham would reach the top against Bruno Sammartino and promised that this would be his year. On April 30, 1977, Billy Graham would take the title from none other than Bruno Sammartino, and with that, his reign would begin. At that time, no villain had ever held a title as seriously as Billy Graham. Vince McMahon Sr. decided to take the risk and make him the top champion of the company. Billy Graham's title reign would end with the incredible Bob Backlund, who would carry the company forward throughout that year. He earned his place in the main events of major cards within the WWF circuit, and although many criticized that he wasn't as charismatic as the previous champions, Bob Backlund's impressive wrestling skills were enough to cement his status as a phenomenon. So much so that in 1979 he would continue leading the company that dominated the sports entertainment industry. In 1980, Vince McMahon would buy the company from his father. However, he was looking for a different way to run professional wrestling. But nevertheless, he decided to keep trusting this man throughout 1980 and 1981.
81, como el mejor luchador.
In 1982, a new generation of wrestlers was beginning, and that's how Bob Backlund managed to stay #1 against them as well. Committing himself to WWF to stay in shape and put on a good show for the attendees and viewers. He held the world title throughout 1982, and during 1983 his success did not diminish at all. The Minnesota native kept increasing his great pace in the ring and dazzling more and more fans. His rivals at that time were Big John Studd, Tony Atlas, among others. At the end of 1983, he would lose his title to the Iron Sheik, and that would be enough for him to lose his #1 spot in the company and for us to say goodbye to him in this ranking, because a new figure was approaching. Starting in 1984, Hulk Hogan began to elevate the WWF in an impressive way, reaching levels never before achieved or even imagined. Because of this, Hulkamania was created. WWF wanted to promote Hogan as a true red and yellow superhero who could quickly capture the attention of children and young people everywhere. In 1985, Hogan was just beginning his big rise. He was the most important wrestler at WrestleMania High, and together with Mr. T, they introduced the whole world to the connection between WWF and entertainment. 1986 would confirm what the Hulkster was willing to do. Roddy Piper, Terry Funk, and Jesse the Boy Ventura would be, just to mention a few, his most important rivals that year. But 1987 would be his most important trial by fire. when he managed to gather more than 93,000 people to face Andre the Giant. The Hulkster defeated Andre the Giant and also broke all the records, since it's estimated that this match had more than 33 million viewers in North America. But by the end of 1987, the Hulkster was already making connections with Hollywood, and he decided to take some time away from the ring. That's how another wrestler would take the #1 spot. Randy Savage would make the most of that spot. He would win the top title at WrestleMania 4 with Hogan himself supporting him at ringside. But he wouldn't always feel like #1, since he often said he felt like Hulk Hogan's shadow. And this would be confirmed in 1989. When Hogan returned that year, he put things back in their place, taking back the #1 spot in WF. Hogan had set out to regain the title he lost, but to do so, he would have to break the alliance he had formed with Randy Savage at WrestleMania 5. Of course, Hogan showed what he was made of and brought out his entire arsenal, but Hogan wouldn't remain #1 for much longer. Because in 1990, WWF would look for a new hero, this time with his face painted. And for Vince, he would be the best replacement for Hulk Hogan. The Ultimate Warrior knew how to make the most of being #1. He would defeat Hogan to become the top champion of the company, but unfortunately, this success wouldn't last long. WWF was forced to bring back a sure bet to lead the company. According to WWF, the Ultimate Warrior didn't have the temperament needed to be the best wrestler or the #1. On the other hand, with Hulk Hogan, the company still thought he was an ace up their sleeve. However, what they didn't know was that the audience was already getting bored of Hogan. That's how in 1992 they needed to find a new hero to lead the company, and Bret Hart was the perfect man. People were getting bored of the muscular men, and they needed to see smaller and more athletic men. WWF was moving forward and dominated a new generation of athletes, a generation with more skill and athleticism inside the ring. And Bret Hart represented those skills perfectly. It's hard to believe that a villain like Yokozuna led the WWF for an entire year, but yes, that's how it was. Yokozuna absolutely dominated the entire industry that year, becoming the WWF's top champion after defeating Hulk Hogan himself. However, WWF would turn to a familiar face to start the new generation. This video is brought to you by WXperiencia, the company that takes you from your city to the WWE event of your choice in the United States. Hey, hurry up, book your spot now for WrestleMania 42. For more information, remember to follow WXperiencia on Instagram. Keep watching. Vince McMahon would once again trust Bret Hart to continue leading what is known as the new generation. Bret Hart would regain his place, and throughout the year 1994, he had impactful and 5-star matches with his brother Owen Hart. That year, for many, would also be the rise and fall of the Hitman. He would lose the championship and get stuck in the mid-card. Another babyface would come to take this spot, and it would be Diesel. That year, he was chosen as the best wrestler of the year. Diesel quickly won the hearts of the fans in a very short time. Although he was very popular, the company felt that with Diesel as champion, they were not getting the results they expected. The following year, Diesel would appear in WCW as Kevin Nash, and in WWF, a new superstar would take over the #1 spot. Shawn Michaels, who had been waiting for this opportunity for many years, would reach the top of Vince McMahon's company. And from that time, the popular saying arose that he was the best wrestler in the world. His feud and matches with Bret Hart showed that the Heartbreak Kid was destined for great things. At WrestleMania 12, he won the WWF title. Unfortunately, Shawn Michaels would go unnoticed by many fans with the rising success of the New World Order in WCW. The following year, things would slowly start to change. The rise of Stone Cold was already a reality. The Rattlesnake would probably have the best match of his entire career against Bret Hart at WrestleMania 33. And he would become the first great anti-hero of WF. not being afraid of any wrestler, even being disrespectful to the boss himself, Vince McMahon. That's how, in 1998, he would continue dominating the show, making his rivalry with Vince even stronger. The Attitude Era was beginning, and Stone Cold was the one steering this huge ship. And he was being Vince McMahon's living nightmare, but the great moments of being number one wouldn't end there. In 1999, Stone Cold would continue to increase his incredible popularity. And the Austin vs. McMahon rivalry kept attracting more and more fans and huge crowds every day. These glorious years would make Stone Cold a pop culture icon to this day, leaving a mark on many generations and being a true golden legend of wrestling worldwide. But when it was time to recover from neck surgery, there was another great superstar waiting for his turn. The Rock is the complete opposite of Stone Cold. They are very different wrestlers, both in the ring and in their personalities. For many, The Rock became even bigger than the Rattlesnake, and he would go on to become WWF champion, having one of the greatest reigns of all time. But in 2001, it would be the turn of an Olympic hero. And of course, 2001 couldn't be given to any other superstar. Kurt Angle, after less than a year in the ring, was already WWF champion. And throughout all of 2001, he proved to be worthy of all the praise and recognition. Recognition from both the company and the fans, having incredible matches with Chris Benoit or even Chris Jericho himself. But none of those I mentioned, including Kurt Angle, were a match for the powerful hurricane that was approaching. Brock Lesnar arrived in WWF full force, being a true beast even back in those years. No one could stand in his way, and even his finisher, called the F5, symbolizes the highest scale of tornadoes in the United States. When Lesnar had been on the roster for just over 6 months, the company changed its name to WWE. Lesnar would win the title, but the one who had lost his number one spot needed to get it back. That's how Kurt Angle decided to win his title back, and in the middle of 2003, he would win it again. But it wasn't just his rivalry with Lesnar that made Kurt the best of the year, it was also his great main event matches with John Cena, Rey Mysterio, among others. Latino Heat would deserve this spot in 2004, dominating the WWE scene after defeating Brock Lesnar at No Way Out and Kurt Angle at WrestleMania, 21 of the best workers in WWE history. He was even able to give some tremendous matches to JBL himself, including one of the most extreme encounters ever seen in the company, although unfortunately Eddie Guerrero would pass away the following year. But Eddie Guerrero's torch would be left in good hands. If you want some, come get some, because the time is now, said John Cena back in those years. Cena's rise had been anticipated since the end of 2003, but Vince felt that this young man still wasn't ready. His big moment would come at WrestleMania 21 when he defeated JBL and became the WWE champion in Los Angeles, California. However, his feud with Chris Jericho that year would also mark a tremendous boost. Although Jericho's popularity caused support for Cena to become divided, forcing Cena to work even harder. The year 2006, where he would have to live up to great challenges and big obstacles. 2006 year, 2006 year, 2006 year, 2006, 2006, the year 2006, the year 2006, 2006, 2006, 2006, the year.
No existían muchos fanáticos que
2006 year, 2006, 2006, 2006, 2006, 2006, the year 2006, 2006, 2006, 2006, 2006, the year 2007, 2007, the year 2007, 2007, the year 2006. The year 2006, the year 2006, 2006, 2006, 2006, the year 2006, the year 2006, the year 2006, the year 2006, 2007, 2007, 2007, 2007, 2006, the year 2006, year 2006, 2006, the year 2007, Michaels at WrestleMania 23. But all those incredible years would come to an abrupt end when a Viper suddenly began to attack. Randy Orton's character, precisely in the year 2008, would become the most evil and sadistic wrestler since he arrived in WWE. But the praise was increasingly for Orton, since he not only won the WWE title, but also headlined major matches with wrestlers like Triple H, Jeff Hardy, and Batista. 2009 would be the year of Triple H, one of the best wrestlers in history who, although he reached the top of the company many times, it was never enough for him to be credited as the best of the year. 2009 would be his turn, and he was finally able to call himself number one. He would headline the main event of WrestleMania 25 against Randy Orton, defeat him, and retain his title. Together with Shawn Michaels, they would put Randy Orton's legacy in their place many times. In 2010, a hero from the past would come to set things right. That's how John Cena would return to the top of WWE, proving with incredible matches why he could still be number one. Cena would spend much of that year trying to defeat the Nexus. And although the group didn't last long, Cena had great matches at events against this faction. However, just like what happened with Hogan, people were getting bored of Cena. That's how they needed a new star to lead WWE, and that was CM Punk, who, besides proving that he was the voice of the voiceless, also managed to bring back thousands of fans around the world who were no longer following WWE because of its lack of stories. That's how he also dominated the year 2012, where Punk's momentum kept growing more and more, having an incredible title run for 434 days. Neither John Cena, nor Ryback, nor Chris Jericho could stop him. They all fell before the champion. But all of this would last until 2013, when that year Daniel Bryan would rise to a stratospheric level with undeniable popularity rarely seen in WWE. And the truth is, it had never been seen before that such a large movement of people would turn into such intense pressure to see their favorite wrestler in a main event. And even though he had a tough time that whole year, in 2014 he would finally get his long-awaited spot. He would be in charge of headlining major main events in WWE, although he achieved total success at WrestleMania 30. WWE didn't like Bryan's prototype as a champion at all, but in the end, they had to give in and had Bryan win. On the same night, he defeated Triple H separately and Batista and Randy Orton together to reach the top in Vince's company. In 2015, Daniel Bryan was rewarded. He would be forced to temporarily retire from wrestling, and another wrestler would reach glory. There's no doubt that 2015 is the year of Seth Rollins. It could have been for any member of the Shield, but the fans made sure to put the Architect in the top spot of the company, having an incredibly impactful moment when he walked out with the WWE title at WrestleMania 31. Unfortunately, an injury would sideline him, and the following year would be reserved for AJ Styles, who had previously worked for companies like TNA and New Japan Pro Wrestling. For many years, he hadn't set foot in WWE, and it was something both he and the fans felt was long overdue. Vince McMahon was so impressed with the Phenomenal One that he gave him the company's top title shortly after his arrival. AJ Styles would prove that he was on a level above WWE, but the torch would be passed to a man who, at that time, wasn't so well liked by the fans. We're talking about Roman Reigns, who in 2017 was basically pushed in a very dictatorial way by WWE, something that the fans really didn't like. Even though Roman Reigns was improving more and more, the fans didn't want to see another Hogan or Cena for years and years. And even less in a forced way. However, in 2017, Roman Reigns would have great matches against Samoa Joe, Braun Strowman, and Brock Lesnar. WWE, seeing that they couldn't control the boos towards Roman Reigns, decided to put his push on hold for a while. And in 2018, they would go back to the man they knew could keep leading WWE to a better path, AJ Styles. AJ Styles returned to the top of the company and had an incredible 12 months where he even formed the Club with Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson. So, with them by his side, AJ Styles set out to elevate the mid-card after becoming United States Champion. He had incredible character development that year, facing wrestlers like Ricochet, Cedric Alexander, and Humberto Carrillo. The year 2019 would be crazy, and the women's revolution would start to make itself felt with small details. Becky Lynch, the best of the year. Without a doubt, since the middle of 2019, it would be crazy. And her merchandise, the best selling in the whole company, even surpassing wrestlers like Roman Reigns, AJ Styles, and Seth Rollins. That year, she would become women's champion, a crazy thing. Triple threat at WrestleMania 35, being part of the first women's main event in WrestleMania history, where she defeated Charlotte Flair and Ronda Rousey. Then she would defend the title for the rest of the year.
Ya el 2020,
It would be crazy, and the women's revolution would be crazy, with Roman Reigns starting a new character, which would go down in history because of its credibility and development. 2019 was crazy, and the women's revolution was crazy. Accompanied by Paul Heyman and delivering truly remarkable promos, his tribal chief character would later make him the leader of the bloodline and the head of the table. Later on, he received good reviews, even in the shows that were affected by the pandemic and had no live audience. In 2021, he would start to involve his family members more directly, and above all, he would continue to hold the title in his hands. He strengthened himself as much as he could, and finally got the fans interested in him, undoubtedly becoming the best wrestler of those years, surpassing Daniel Bryan, Kevin Owens himself, and Brock Lesnar in matches. In 2022, Roman Reigns would reclaim his place. In the new year, undisputed Universal Champion. It was no longer just about growing the bloodline with his family, but he would give Sami Zayn the opportunity to make the bloodline even stronger. And in all the previous years, he had been number one, but his peak would come in 2023, where under no circumstances could the tribal chief be left out. He would reclaim his place, best wrestler of the year, and neither Sami Zayn nor Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania 39 could dethrone him that year.
incluso pensaron que el campeón de NXT de ese año,
Reigns would be the one in charge, but no, because there was a wrestler who had to finish his story. That's how in 2024, Cody Rhodes, after an incredible surge in popularity, began to generate the excitement needed to be able to defeat. Reigns would reclaim one of the greatest endings of all time that year. The era of Roman Reigns was beginning. And Cody managed to have incredible high-level matches in the ring, defeating wrestlers like Logan Paul and even AJ Styles himself. If we look at the present, it's interesting to feel that an old-school wrestler is completely stealing the show. It's 2025, and without a doubt, 2022 was his year. John Cena returned in 2024 to announce that 2025 would be his last year in professional wrestling. He would do a farewell tour throughout that entire year. However, in February 2025, he would surprise the world when he turned into a villain like we had never seen before. He said that he would end up killing wrestling, and if that wasn't enough, he would win the WWE title at WrestleMania 41. After that, there have only been great promos and matches in which Cena has completely stolen the show. The crowd has continued to support him without question, only this time, John Cena says he doesn't care. Now that 2026 has started, we can't deny that Gunter is starting the year as number one. After retiring John Cena in December 2025, as well as AJ Styles in January 2026, he has positioned himself as a true phenomenon in this industry. A powerful wrestler who keeps growing and gaining ground in WWE every day. Gunter and his dominant strength remain unstoppable. No one knows the formula to stop him. Well, for now at least, he hasn't managed to gain many detractors, but he also hasn't built a huge fan base.